Hello, everybody. Today, I'm doing a Vedic astrology tutorial on the eclipses, how they are formed, what to see in your natal chart about the eclipses, and how they impact when eclipses take place by transit. Hello, I'm Komilla Sutton, and we are discussing eclipses today. Eclipses were very important for our sages because they knew how to calculate the eclipses from a very early time immemorial. And this is why Rahu Ketu have a big importance in Vedic astrology, because the calculation of Rahu Ketu gives us the information where the eclipse is going to take place. And then there is a certain angle that the eclipse takes place, and that gives us the visibility of the eclipses. So basically, the eclipses will take place mostly every year. You will get 2 solar eclipses and 2 lunar eclipses, and they are not visible all over the world. There are certain areas that the solar eclipse is visible. And in your birth chart, if you're born on a full moon or a new moon, and Rahu Ketu are with your moon and with the sun, that means that you're born at a time of an eclipse. So basically, wherever Rahu Ketu are just now, then when the new moon takes place, that is where the solar eclipse will take place. And where the full moon takes place, that is where the lunar eclipse will take place. And because Rahu Ketu are on the ecliptic, this is where that means that the sun, moon, and earth are in a certain alignment, where the earth shadow falls on the moon for a full moon eclipse. That means it's a lunar eclipse. And new moon, moon's shadow falls, and it is Earth's shadow falls on the sun, and it is a new moon eclipse or a solar eclipse. Now, the solar eclipse has a path of the eclipse, and that path you can check out by, there are a number of websites, and I'll put a link. But the NASA website, nasa.org, NASA.org, that's a good site. You can go and look up the eclipse information. It gives many eclipse information there, and the direction of the path of the eclipse, and where the totality of the eclipse is taking place. And but we as astrologers, we are interested in firstly, how does the eclipse affect us? And generally, if you have you are born with the new moon and Rahu is there or Ketu is there, that means you are born at a time of an eclipse. The degree of Rahu Ketu away from the new moon has to be plus minus 11 degrees. And for the full moon or the lunar eclipse, it has to be plus minus 18 degrees. So where Rahu Ketu are, so at the time of the recording, Rahu Ketu are in Gemini, Sagittarius axis. So the eclipses are taking place in Gemini and Sagittarius. And the eclipses move backwards, and then they will go to Taurus, Scorpio axis. So you will have a Rahu eclipse and a Ketu eclipse. And so in your birth chart, if you have Rahu with the new moon, or Rahu Ketu, obviously the other side, or with the full moon, and also Ketu with a new moon as well. That means that you're born around an eclipse. And of course, it indicates that Rahu Ketu become very dominant, and it can create, emotional storms within you. It can also make you very different, unusual personality, because the Rahu Ketu are very dominant. You can feel outsider, that you don't belong. But because Rahu Ketu both work on a psychological level, then they can affect you emotionally. They can bring fear and anxiety internally as well. And the same thing, if you're born with a full moon eclipse and a lunar eclipse, then again, the shadow, the moon is eclipse. It's hidden behind Rahu or Ketu, depending on which planet is there. So it can, again, give great psychic ability, very intuitive, but it can be emotionally hard on you. So it is good if you can do some meditation, yoga, spiritual things, because then that helps you to ground yourself and not always be in the shadow of Rahu Ketu. Then being born on an eclipse day is relatively rare, because you get two eclipses, two solar eclipses, two lunar eclipses in a year. And so therefore there's only 4 days that you can potentially have a birth on an eclipse day. So therefore your chart is quite unusual, rare if you were born on eclipse day, but you should be conscious of doing some remedies for it so that you can calm the Rahu Ketu energy. See, Rahu Ketu energy is like a snake energy. So it can disturb the psyche, and it can also make you feel anxious and irritated and outsider. So always with Rahu Ketu, we have to learn how to calm them down. And so if you have sun, moon, both conjunct with Rahu Ketu, either sun, moon together or sun, moon opposite each other, then you know that you're born on an eclipse day. Now, most of us get affected by eclipses during the cycle of the eclipses. And so this cycle is obviously retrogrades back. So it stays in 2 signs, the eclipses, for 18 months. That is the time that Rahu Ketu stay in a cycle. And so Rahu eclipse will be there, Ketu eclipse will be there. There'll be 2 solar eclipses in a year, 2 lunar eclipses. On rare occasions, you may get 3, but mostly you'll get 2 each of them. And so these eclipses, and I will be making recordings of those and videos of the eclipses when they happen, so that you know where they are happening, what is the thing. So there are 2 factors about eclipses. Firstly is that the solar eclipse is, what is the path of the eclipse? Is it visible from where you are? Then that eclipse is very powerful for you, and you will experience something, some change, transformation, something, the country you're living in and the country where the eclipse path goes can go through some political upheaval, personal upheaval in the country, other things, nature. Always I find that earthquakes happen around the eclipse time. So this is a solar eclipse. So you can look up again nasa.org. You can go and see where the eclipses are visible and what it is. Then the second factor is that they are invisible. That means they are happening somewhere, yet we are can get affected by them. And what you have to see is that what is the degree of the eclipse? And most important is, do you have sun or moon placed near the eclipse point? If the sun, moon, or ascendant is close to the eclipse point, that means you are going to be going through some change, transformation. It will be unexpected. You will not be able to say, this is what is happening, because that's the nature of the eclipse. And if it is not visible, it's more silent. If it's visible, maybe you are more aware that some areas of your life are changing. And the three most key things that you're watching is sun, moon, and ascendant. But you can also see what house the eclipse is taking place. Let's say your eclipse is taking place in the 10th house, then there can be some change, transformation regarding career. Now, of course, if it is taking place in your ascendant, then automatically 7th house is included, because one eclipse will be in your ascendant, the other one will be in the 7th house of marriage and relationships. So self and relationships are changing with the eclipses. So natally, we are affected by the eclipses. How much you're affected really depends on your chart. And of course, other planets can be close to the eclipse point. And those planets, while not being as important as Sun, Moon, and Lagna, they are also important aspects for you. So you can see the axis where Rahu Ketu is transiting. So if it is, say, career, then 4th house, because they're always the two opposite houses that are getting affected by the eclipses. So that is an important factor with the eclipse, that it is affecting you, and change and transformation. As I said, I'm making videos about them all the time, telling you about it. Now, the solar eclipse, the energy remains till as long as the eclipse is there. So if it's a 4-minute eclipse, that means for 4 years, there is that residue sensitive energy there, and the degree of the solar eclipse remains active for the 4 years. So say if the degree was 10 degrees of Leo, then any planet crossing, and especially if Saturn was to cross, or Mars or Rahu itself crossing, it can create an upheaval and unexpected energy. Yeah, and as far as lunar eclipse is concerned, the impact of the lunar eclipse is instant. It doesn't wait. The eclipse will take place instantly. You'll know immediately what is happening. And, so it's like it can reveal a scandal. It can bring out information. Solar eclipse, usually nothing happens on the day of the eclipse, but it's like a omen that something about to happen. And whereas a lunar eclipse I've watched, always instantly something can take place. Then things to watch with the eclipses is that, is there any other thing happening? This year, July, eclipses, Saturn, Ketu, are either with the eclipse, opposite the eclipse. So that's quite a key factor for the eclipse. That means Saturn is there. Ketu, of course, will automatically be part of the eclipse energy. But sometimes you see that eclipses on a solstice day or an equinox day. So those become important to judge that there is something happening, Sankranti day, because then that means that they are astronomically important times, and the eclipse is plugging into that energy. Usually, as I said, it's an omen. So of something to happen. And if it is visible in your country, then the country itself is going through big changes and big upheaval. Of course, each eclipse has to be studied separately and understood separately. Lunar eclipses always instant, it doesn't last within a month. Everything is revealed. So there is no hidden aspect of the lunar eclipse. Now, in our chart, the eclipses are always affecting 2 areas of our chart by transit. So those areas can be going through some transformation, but it's not so rare, because every few years you will see that the eclipses repeat themselves, because you see Rahu Ketu, but by the time they've moved about every 7 years or so, you'll see that Rahu Ketu will create an eclipse, either your first house, seventh house, or also for festivals. This year, Guru Purnima is with a lunar eclipse. Then all our Hindu festivals are on full moon or new moon. So there's quite often that the festival falls with either a solar eclipse or a lunar eclipse. But it's not that often that the eclipse is happening in the country. So I remember I was at Rishikesh and Haridwar actually, and we were attending the Ganga Aarti, and they delayed the Ganga Aarti by 1 hour because that day the lunar eclipse was visible at night. And so the energy was very intense. They're beautiful because we were doing puja and spiritual things. But sometimes, these are times when people can get disturbed or unsettled because Rahu Ketu are dominant. And they are the people, Rahu Ketu are the ones that are creating the eclipses. So in the olden days, this is a demon has eaten up the sun and the moon, and there was a lot of scare about these things. So it is important to to know the visible eclipse, whether it's visible in your country or even the invisible eclipses. I personally find the timing around the eclipses, the energy is very funny and you start feeling odd. And of course, knowing that it's an eclipse day, you know that today is a funny energy day and it's best not to plan anything, definitely not marriage, no new project, avoid travel if you can. Basically, the thing is that with the eclipse, you don't know where this energy is going to develop and how it's going to develop. So usually during eclipse, if it is visible in your country, it's a good day to fast, to do something very simple. In Kurukshetra, there is a area, it's called Suraj Kund. And that is where people go, come when the eclipse is visible in India. They will come to Kurukshetra and stand in the water and pray to the sun god during that time, because they feel that is a way of letting go of the energy. And after the eclipse, to have a shower so that any kind of psychic energy that is stuck to you, that you can let go. Often people will not cook food during that time and cook after the eclipse has finished and gone. So these are some of the things about the eclipses. I will be posting regularly as the eclipses happen. And so you can learn about the particular eclipse, where it is happening, and what signs it's affecting. Thank you very much. Check out my website, komilla.com.